I'm Mark Greenstein, and this is the Mark and Media section. Welcome. Some of you have been here before. I wanted to respond to a very good media personality who's been in our midst for over 2 years. He is Todd Feinburg on WTIC AM 1080's Afternoon Drive Show. And he has gotten deservedly good ratings because he carries about with a nice equanimity and calmness, even though inside I'm sure he's not calm. There's turmoil about anyone who's thoughtful about Connecticut's fiscal situation. And Todd dwells on that every single show. Today, a tremendous hour, the 5 o'clock hour. Todd had 2 guests. I've met both of them, and they were at their best, David Stemerman and Joe DeLong. But 2 questions went unanswered. I would like to answer both of these. Joe DeLong, the head of the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, answered very candidly lots of things except who's to blame for the fiscal situation. Let me answer it. It is both town officials and state officials that don't do their jobs. They don't do their jobs of paying for what they spend. Now, they're egged on by we, the voters, who don't care enough. Okay? In theory, we don't like indebting ourselves, but we keep voting for people who don't mind indebting ourselves. That tends to be the Democrat Party. We do not vote them out like we should. Here's my principle. Anyone indebting us, short of a World War II-like emergency, has a skewed sense of right and wrong. Future generations should not be paying for this generation's stuff, okay? Get out of your debt within 15 years, okay? That's a sped up mortgage. There's nothing that we absolutely need that we can't pay for ourselves. And certainly things we don't need but just kind of like, you have to pay for them. So it's a mess. The second question that went unanswered was asked of David Stemerman. How do we get ourselves into, Todd asks, electing these people who don't reform government when there's plenty of sentiment by voters for great reform? My answer. Horrible media and professors that make people afraid to vote Republican. Okay? It takes a real stand-up person, or you have to live in one of the few communities in Connecticut that's majority Republican. People who just, their instinct is Democrat, they're egged on by media, and when Republicans are painted by media as uncaring, not like everybody else, they're dead wrong, but it's a seductive message. And it is time for people to realize that conservatives, that includes some Democrats, I'm one, who care probably more about individuals and families than government officials. They care to not have debt laden on children. They care to still have individual choice. They care to not be larding on people who don't really want to work or do want to work but expect to get paid huge largesse. That's the form of pensions that we give over year after year to state workers. Okay, we got to start voting in people who are just continuing that system. And so I don't care how the media depict, because the media are skewed. And it's time we recognize that when media doesn't play it straight down the middle, it's because they have an agenda of wanting to elect tax and spend people, and the rest of us suffer. So, look, the leverage, Todd kind of continued with that too. What leverage do we have My answer there, radical change, not incremental change. Radical, but let me put it in perspective. It's not bloody and it's not revolutionary. A revolution is to greatly change things to something new. My proposal is to get back to something old. Things that worked. In Connecticut, our government worked decently up until about the 1970s. We went off the rails definitely in the 80s. Things in the federal government, I'm not sure have worked since the 1920s, when the federal government decided to get big and we didn't put up enough objection to it. State governments have gotten almost as big and we don't put up enough objection to it. We expect government to take care of us when we do better when we take care of ourselves. We know this, but it's hard to say no to free stuff. And free stuff's always going to come from those in the legislature that get a benefit, votes and adulation for finding free stuff from people. What is it going to take? More activism before and during election cycles. It does take civic activism to call out bad legislators. And with that, we could really turn things around. For gosh sakes, Joe Arasimowicz was only 51 votes away from being shown the door in 2018. 51 votes, that's all it took. Concerted effort on issues that we, the people, know are right, and to press it upon the people who are just blithely going in, voting for the same old, that usually means Democrat, although there's some go-along Republicans that aren't much better. We need the radical change. Sooner the better. I'm Mark Greenstein.